All right, and we're back with a video about the transition to the other side. I am on the other side. Cue Adele. Just kidding. So I have been in my position for about 4 months, and it's very freeing. It's also a little scary because for the past 6 years, I have been operating under different people's licenses. And I think as a trainee, I was very aware that everything I did would reflect on whoever was signing off on whatever I was doing. That was its own kind of stress that I didn't want to disappoint anyone, didn't want to let anyone down, didn't want to cause anyone to lose their license. I never did anything that would even remotely cause that, but that's my anxiety. And now I'm on the other side, and I think that I have had very good supervisors, and as I've gotten closer and closer to independence, I did experience kind of more freedom and more hands-off supervision as I got closer, which has been nice because it didn't feel like a complete removal of support. And as an independent practitioner, I don't have to check in with anyone about anything if I really don't want to. Now, I always will, because I think that is still good practice, consultation and checking in and just, bouncing ideas off of people. But some of the things that I experienced in supervision that now I don't have to deal with are like in assessment. I can write my reports how I want. I don't have to do it the way that someone else wants me to. I can switch it up a little bit if I find that something works for certain groups or certain peoples more than other. More people. What? If something works better for certain people, there we go. But I do have, so in my hospital, I am now the second pediatric psychologist. The first one was there for a little over a year by herself, the only pediatric psychologist in the system. And we have a good handful of adult psychologists and some of them who might work with adolescents every once in a while. But she was the only one who was seeing, across like pretty much like birth to 18, I would say. And our offices are right next to each other, so we are able to kind of consult with each other. So we both do this, we do a lot of the same things. My job is, I do autism evals, I do inpatient consultation liaison, CL, for the general peds, so pediatric unit, pediatric ICU, also for the neonatal ICU, the NICU, which is caregivers, not the little babies. Did I already say NICU follow-up? I also do that. She also does the same things, but she also is embedded within our HEMOC team. So, and does more assessment, more broad assessment, not just autism assessment. But for a lot of the cases that we have, they're kind of the same population. So we do a lot of consultation, when we're doing an assessment and something is confusing, or maybe the information that we're getting is a little odd, just checking in and being like, does this sound right to you? Or does this write-up sound good to you? A lot of the times when I did a lot of assessment rotations, I was in the schools for school psych. I did outpatient evaluations when I was on internship. I was in both like a neuropsych rotation and an autism clinic. And then we also had like an abbreviated autism clinic, so the way they wrote the reports were all different. And then for postdoc, we were doing brief consultation, and those reports were very brief because they were not like a comprehensive assessment, but they were written very specifically. And so I feel like I've had all these different experiences, and now I'm trying to figure out like what's my style and what works. Trying to understand not just the system that I'm working in, but also the community, what makes sense for the families that we're working with, and thinking about who they're going to give those reports to. There are sometimes Their pediatricians have access to the reports because usually if they're within the system here, they would see them in Epic. But like, are they taking them back to the schools? How am I writing about a child's potential eligibility or benefit from specialized services in schools, but I'm also using my school psych background, and I'm not saying your kid is gonna get an IEP. I'm just saying, hey, it might happen, it might not. That's not up to me, but you can share this with the school and see what happens. You know? Rather than, you need to get an IEP right now, because that's not how that works. So it is very nice being able to kind of set my own standard and be okay with switching as I go. The other thing is, I've done inpatient CL before, I've done autism evals. I also have been in the autism world before grad school, so I feel like I'm not like an autism person, but I feel comfortable in that space, and I feel comfortable talking to families about what autism is and what it isn't, and what it could be or what it might not be, or it might be this thing instead of, I feel comfortable having those conversations. And in the other aspects of my job, like the NICU, I did a practicum a few years ago where I was in the NICU follow-up clinic, but I wasn't providing consultation in the NICU itself. So I'm also just kind of learning how to provide support that isn't technically individual therapy, because our notes are for the child, not the parent. So it's more like an informal touch point. But also just learning, like, what are the different reasons kids would end up in the NICU, and not every child who's in the NICU ends up in the NICU follow-up clinic. That was new to me. I didn't know that. So just learning things about the different specialties that I'm in and all of that. It has been a slow ramp up for working with trainees. When I first started, the other pediatric psychologist had a supervisee in the NICU follow-up clinic. So I wasn't her supervisor, but I was there. So I was able to see how she supervised that student in that setting. And then there were other times where if she was not present, I could be kind of a stand-in supervisor, because we have to be present for those appointments, especially for billing them. And then, so I was able to see like what it could look like to have a supervisee in that clinic with me. I have also done more lectures than I thought. I've done 2 for medical students. I think they were second-year students. I'm currently doing this like 4-part series for 4th-year psychiatry residents about psychological support for children and adolescents. I'm already slated to do 2 presentations at the doctoral program within some of their classes. That part wasn't as slow of a ramp up as I thought it was going to be, but it's okay because I like doing that, and I like being able to have like a one-off thing every once in a while and not, teaching a whole class and doing a whole situation. So that's been great. And annual reviews are coming up, which I've only been here for 4 months, but I get to think about goals for next like academic year, and what I hope to see for myself. I'm not going to share those because those are personal and those are mine, but it's nice to be able to work in a place where I am respected and valued, and people really appreciate having pediatric psychologists in our system, because for a while we didn't have one, and then we had one for a year who was probably overextending herself, and now I'm here and people are like, ooh, there's more. Yes, I am here, and we're gonna be great, and then hopefully one day we have an even bigger team. But the transition has been good. I feel valued. I feel content, and it is really, a lot of people told me while I was still in grad school, like, it gets better, everything's better on the other side, and I was like, that's not possible. It literally could only go downhill from here. But it's not true. Everything is better. I have so much time back to myself. I'm technically working 8 to 5. Some days are longer than 5, but it's not every day. And even then, it's not like I'm going home to work for hours. My weekends are mine. I'm not writing papers. I'm not doing homework. I'm not blah, 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 blah. Do I have research time? I need to double check. I think the research commitment, because I'm also, I don't think I mentioned, I'm a fixed term clinical faculty. I'm not tenure track. I'm on the fixed term clinical kind of trajectory. So I think the only research I technically have to do for promotion or advancement in title, as they call it, is like publish 1 or 2 things in the next 3 to 5 years, present at a conference. It's very minimal, and I have enough contacts and people who I still collaborate with that shouldn't be a problem at all. So that's that. I'm doing well. My silence is not indicating anything's wrong. I'm just living my life. But I'm gonna try to remember to post here every once in a while, give some updates. But I'm glad that people have reached out and have asked questions about when I'm gonna start posting again. Right now. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see what comes next. Bye.